Good morning, everyone. We're just letting everyone in. I see we have more people joining us, so we're just going to wait another couple of seconds to give everybody a chance to join us. All right. Well, I think we're ready to get started now, and we'll let others join as they come in. So good morning, everyone, and welcome. We're so happy that you're here with us today for our final Thinking Differently session for 2024, and very happy to be with you here today. My name is Jill Feldman, and with me is my colleague Kendra Stewart. We both work in the consulting side of Catapult. So I'm the director of strategic HR. Kendra is the manager of our HR on Demand consulting team, and we are very happy to be here with you today to talk about the 2025 Workplace Trends Report. And so, Joni, we can move to the next slide. So we're very excited to share with you today our 2025 Workplace Trends Report, which examines some of the trends that we see transforming workplaces. These are the things that we are all experiencing now in our own workplaces, what we're reading about in the media, in the news. We read about the trends on LinkedIn. And so these are the things that are happening, and we'll continue into, I think, 2025 and beyond. So some of the topics we're going to talk about today include tech transformation and AI, a hot topic for sure. Work model transformation. We're talking about remote, hybrid, and in-person, and that whole situation that continues to evolve. We're going to also talk about skills-based hiring, as well as upskilling and reskilling. More and more, we're hearing about those phenomena, along with one of my favorite topics, employee engagement and employee experience. We're going to dive into data-driven people analytics, and finally, we're going to talk about the term embedded HR, with HR driving the business strategy. So all topics excited to dive into today. And the first topic we are going to talk about in the next slide is about the tech transformation. And I'm going to turn that over to Kendra to get us started.
Hi, everybody. I think that this one is probably a pretty great example of one that we all have noticed to be by far and away one of the largest trends. I think it's probably a very easy and simple one for us to have probably seen as far as the needle moving in the most recent years. Technological change has just happened so quickly, I think, for a lot of us recently. So I think it's probably no surprise that this is one of the trends that we also are seeing. And keep in mind, it means many different things, right? When we think technology, we can, it could be as simplistic as an LMS system being bought for the first time, right? Versus managing something that used to not be automated at your organization. It could mean upgrading an HRIS system in order to make it a little bit more easy and functional for you within your organization. It could also mean many things with your ATS systems and all different sorts of software programs as well. So when you think about, the digital transformation and HR processes and how it really can reshape and has been reshaping companies around primarily how companies are learning to attract talent, how to manage talent, how to even retain talent. And oftentimes it's not about, people think about technology and the first thing we think about is that fear of human element being removed, but it's actually quite the opposite. Most times companies are doing this because they want to enhance employees' experiences. And that's the major reason that we're seeing in this trend for why there's so much drastic change that we're starting to notice. They want for employees to be able to have a stronger work experience and as we all know, whether it's AI technology, there's so many new AI powered systems and screening tools, as an example. These days, ATS systems are allowing for video resumes. It could be other technology enabling things that professionals are using for recruiting methods. Either way, it's all designed for most of us to make things either faster or to help us target more, right? In an area that we want to enhance. So embracing and advancing HR software, cloud solutions, allowing for teams to be able to centralize processes, enhancing whatever their accessibility is to data, and improving efficiency really is what it comes down to. It's designed for us to be able to free up more time for those of us who have HR initiatives to focus more on strategic initiatives so that we can concentrate where it most matters. And I think, especially I know for myself, the biggest thing that I have seen and utilized more, I mentioned it, but AI related systems. I'm sure that's probably the first thing that comes to mind too, for everybody on the line as well. So I'm curious for the audience. I know I've seen it the most. I think the trend that I have utilized the most in the past year has for sure been AI technology. But beyond that, I'm curious. I'm throwing it out to everybody. Feel free to jump in and join this conversation with the chat. I just want to know, how many have you invested in adding AI technology applications, maybe into your HR functions? And really, you can just say a yes or a no. Have you utilized AI technology recently? Feel free to kind of jump in and put it in the chat. Yes or no, kind of working on it, inviting everybody to just put something out. Not yet, working on it,
Right.
working on it. Oh, yes, in recruiting.
Recruiting.
Interesting.
Right.
No, not yet. So we're getting a
Right.
decent mix, it looks like, right, Jill? Of like
Right. Lots of
yeses.
AI curious. We're working
Yeah.
we're working towards it, thinking about it, wondering
Yeah,
about it.
exactly.
But
Exactly.
recruiting for sure, that does not surprise me. We're seeing it
Yeah,
a lot. I know working in LinkedIn Recruiter, which we use and our recruiting team uses, you're just seeing more and more AI embedded into the application of how it works, and
absolutely.
just trying to navigate it is so interesting.
Yeah, and so many systems again are starting to utilize it as a part of their ATS systems as well. I'm curious, for those of you who are in fact using it, would anybody be interested in, again, on the chat, just jumping in and telling us where you're using it? Just kind of give us an idea, whether it be maybe for those that don't have it in their system, even are you using it in Chat GPT as an
Yeah.
example, or something like that? Would anybody be willing to share if you are, or if you're even thinking about it? Where are you using it? How are you using it? Any thoughts? Oh,
Ooh,
for
job
sure.
description, development. I love that.
For
Yeah.
sure, job descriptions are a big part, even for us on my team, with consultants and us helping. Oftentimes, sometimes it's very helpful if you just want to find exactly the right wording for your culture, right?
Yes.
Or the
Yes.
right wording in order to be able to develop finding the right talent. Sometimes it is very helpful to be able to use that when you're writing job descriptions. Any other thoughts before I move on, or thoughts of maybe how you would use it for those of you who are still thinking it through?
How many of you have been using Chat GPT? I'm curious. Is anyone using that to just get ideas? Definitely for wording. Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Oh, cleaning up policies. Yeah,
Cleaning
absolutely.
up policies is great. There's Love it. There we go. Chat GPT is our friend, our time saver, helping us to,
Yeah,
again, to come up with wording, saving you on a lot of those administrative tasks.
yeah,
Students are using it in class.
yep,
Great. And Copilot as well, which is built into the Microsoft system.
yeah,
Similar, doing some of the same things as Chat GPT. There's a little difference between them. Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like our little helpers.
For sure. And I
Yeah.
see that while, yes, while organizationally maybe some of us haven't gotten there. Clearly, it seems like an astounding yes that we're all, yep, Grammarly, we're all
Grammarly as
using
well.
AI, yes, at least personally and individually in some way, shape, or form, which makes complete sense. Joni, if you want to move to um, the next slide, yep, we can talk a little bit more of it in detail because for sure, I mean, you all are seeing it, but I mean, National Business Trends Survey is telling us from this slide that employers have invested in new technology by almost 10% just from year over year, just from 2023 to 24. And we are seeing it show up everywhere, just like you all are saying. You're using Chat GPT, Gemini, Grammarly, Microsoft Copilot. I mean, systems, and as we automate, including using AI and become more integral to the workplace, we as HR professionals, we have to adapt to this technological shift. I mean, so being able to understand these systems, I see that a lot of us are starting to gravitate toward recruitment and onboarding, which makes complete sense. But even utilizing it from an engagement perspective, it's starting to turn into something that's not an option. It's kind of essential for us to be competitive and to also just, streamline the way that we do things. We're expected to kind of rethink traditional job designs, how we leverage technologies, and while we still maintain, again, that human element of HR, being able to adopt proactive approaches and utilizing systems like this, we can streamline these operations easier. It helps us to focus on creating more meaningful and strategic initiatives just by utilizing these systems. So incorporating AI not only enhances efficiency, but it's driving innovation for us.
Yeah.
We've got to focus on cultivating and innovating and just being able to change and having a more agile mindset about how to use it is what's really, I think, going to encourage a lot of areas, including continuous learning. So I want to move to the next slide, I think, which is focusing on some changes with the workforce.
Yeah. Um, so work model transformation, and I think we are all experiencing this. I can tell you just in any call I have with any of our members, with any of you who call in my roundtables where we talk about workplace culture, this topic is always sometimes number one. Where's the work being done? It's the struggle between remote, between hybrid. What does hybrid even look like? And then bringing people in person. We're hearing more and more in the news. Amazon has put out that they are now going to require everyone to be in person 5 days a week. A company like Amazon starting in January. I mean, that is where there's clearly a struggle. We know, though, at the same time, that the demand for remote work has not gone away. And while companies are pulling people, are doing their best to pull people back into the office since all the changes we had through COVID, it's not always going smoothly. Our own Catapult recruiting and hiring trend survey from this year showed that still, almost 30% of employers are reporting that meeting the demand for remote work has still been among their biggest challenges in attracting and retaining talent. There's still this demand for remote work. And I don't see that trend changing anytime soon. There's just this drive towards flexibility and having that ability to have a work-life balance, and that's not going away. At the same time, we recognize that many companies, want to have people in person, and so there is still, a lot of hybrid. There's a lot of companies out there with some type of hybrid schedule, and even with hybrid, where we're saying people have to be in the office X number of days per week, the element of employee choice is still really important. And even in our National Business Trends Survey that we put out earlier this year, about 30% of employers who offer hybrid work, where people have to be there 2 to 3 days a week, are still allowing their employees the flexibility to choose their in-office days. So even with the demand to be in the office, there's still some flexibility with choosing their days. And so I think flexibility is really, really key. And we know that improved work-life balance, I mean, that's, all we hear about. According to our National Business Trends Survey, again, 76% of job seekers prioritize healthy work-life balance. I mean, that is just key to well-being, and hybrid and remote work will continue to be the options that help people do that. And
Yeah.
it's really about choice. It really is
Mhm.
about the flexibility and choice. I know one of the things Kendra and we were talking about when we were looking at this slide is, what does it even mean by employee choice?
Right.
Even when you have to be in person. For example, in a manufacturing environment. Kendra, did you want to talk about that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure. I mean, we're finding for a lot of our members, as an example, one of the things that I'm hearing is that choice doesn't necessarily mean black and white within, respectively, you're hybrid today or not. For a lot of environments, like our manufacturing environments, we're finding choice still exists by considering a transformation of how we think of it. So, for instance, even for a scheduled shift or for reporting time, choice and flexibility can mean something as simplistic as, rather than that 7 a.m., let's say, start time, right? That arbitrarily everybody might come in for. Now, employees might be able to have the ability to make a choice of, okay, well, I have some other personal engagement I have to do, whether it be dropping off maybe kids at school or something else, or a doctor's appointment on this particular day. And so instead of maybe the 7 a.m., I'm coming at 8 o'clock, in order to get to work. So employee choice can mean so many different things, I think, Jill,
right.
right? Depending upon
Absolutely.
what industry you're talking about and what works best for your employees, for sure.
Absolutely. I know we've talked about, I know we have a member in the manufacturing field who has started coming up with 16 different shifts to
Right,
offer their employees. So some, working parent shifts versus, people that want to work that, kind of 8 to 5. So lots of different options, part-time shifts, in order to be creative, because it is getting harder and harder to find people. And Johnny, we'll move to the next slide to talk a little bit more about just finding candidates. And so it one of the things we do know from the demographic shifts that have been happening over the last 10, 20 years and beyond is that the working population, the number of people actually available to work, the working population is going down. And that
right,
trend is only going to continue over the next 50 years, according to the demographers. So, just knowing that it's getting more and more challenging to find talent. I mean, this is something I talk about all the time with people, and I know this tends to be one of the top challenges, right? Our own recruiting and hiring trend survey say that more than 73% of employers are citing a shortage of qualified candidates as their biggest challenge in attracting and retaining talent. So knowing that we're in this environment where it's harder and harder to find people, and there are fewer people out there with those available skills, you've got to start being more open to broadening your talent pool. And so what we're finding is um, that companies are needing to focus differently on not so much on formal degrees. It used to be you had these job descriptions with must have qualifications, pages and pages. They must have certain degree, must have these things. And we're finding out that we cannot hold out for all of those qualifications.
right,
And more companies are shifting to a more dynamic skills-based approach. And this is just a trend I think is going to continue as the challenge to find qualified candidates continues to, I don't think that's going away anytime soon.
right. Yeah.
So enable to be able to really tap into that wider talent pool that's out there, being more open to looking at things like skills based and it, rather than just the educational background. We just see more and more of a trend moving away from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for sure, I think a natural progression too from that trend is the fact that people are starting to think about, just hiring new people or looking for new people
Right.
as a means of moving away from that and starting to think about how do we retain people
Right.
differently.
Right.
And, why do we have to do this is exactly for the trend that Jill is describing. A lot of that means that you've got to move away from thinking only recruiting and how to recruit talent and think about, different ways to recruit talent, but also how to keep talent, which
Right.
means upskilling, reskilling, right? Which is, the next slide that we have, which means that, business needs are rapidly evolving. The importance of being able to upskill or reskill is just very great right now. We as HR professionals are tasked with having to identify and help business leaders identify what these critical skills are going to be and develop pathways, whether it be through leadership development pathways, training pathways. Either way, we have to help with providing the ability for employees to transition into new roles and to be able to create progressions that perhaps maybe weren't there previously by actively creating these sorts of programs that are going to be able to foster continuous learning, development, so that organizations yet again can engage people and still remain competitive, right, in the market with all these changes that we're starting to see. This is how we're going to be able to rely on, moving away from the external hiring so much and still being able to keep great people, in the seat that they have. So being able to attract and retain skilled talent is just one part of the equation, but just being able to build on that adaptable workforce and to be able to build from within is just equally as vital. And I think that just making sure that we're keeping aware of the fact that the kind of the new normal needs to move away from just the recruiting aspect. The new normal also has to look at equally how are we and what are we doing inside with the employees we have in
Right.
order to keep them here, right? And to keep them engaged.
That's right. Growing your own talent for sure.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, and I see in our own National Business Trends survey, 65% of employers are going to be focusing on their existing staff,
That's
receiving
right.
additional training and development. I mean, that's where we have to focus now because the
That's
talent
right.
just isn't always out there in the market.
Yeah. And so we're we're transitioning. We've been talking about thinking differently about how we recruit, thinking differently about upskilling and reskilling. But on the next slide, we're transitioning to all of this. Really, if you think about it, is involved with engagement and the employee experience. On the slide, you see that it says well-being is what's considered the new productivity. And I don't want for folks to be confused. Oftentimes, when we see well-being, the first thing that we think is like wellness, right? Mental wellness, employee wellness. And while that's an element that's important, I think what we mean here is that it's really a two-way street. Wellness is really about employers want to be able to have workers show up and feel energized about wanting to come work and enjoy the work that they do and be prepared to really reach for the company goals and aspire to do well, right? And perform. But on the flip side, employees want the same thing. We want to be able to wake up as an employee and be excited about the daily challenges that we have at work. And so we've kind of got to be able to find a way to tap into that understanding so that we can help employees and help companies better engage employees so that they'll stay. How do we do that? What we're finding is surveys. They're able to capture the pulse of what matters most to employees. Being mindful of from the sense that it's important for your organization through engagement surveys, pulse surveys, to be able to find out what's critical to employees, whether it be for every year, we're just seeing that employers are increasing the amount of their budget they're allocating just for engagement by nearly 10% from the previous year. So as you can see, these trends are increasing. Folks are starting to get it and understand that being mindful means being aware of what's important with employees, with their experience and how they see work and how to keep challenged. It's interesting. Jill and I were looking for great statistics to pull. We found one that we often talk about sometimes through other initiatives that we do. And we've got this great Gallup survey results that we found. And what Gallup actually reported is that it's found, believe it or not, that disengaged workers, which this part probably is not unheard of, disengaged workers are at the highest risk of leaving. But here's the interesting statistics around that. It takes more than a 20% pay raise on average to lure most employees away from a manager who engages them. However, right. It takes next to nothing, though,
Right.
to poach or pull away an employee who's not engaged.
Right.
So keep that in mind with respect to what are we doing? What are you doing to stay on the pulse of engaging your people? What are you doing to help your managers with pulling them in so that they also have a means of being able to understand how to keep people challenged and happy and wanting to come to work so that it feeds into the other side of the coin, which is people that are here to really set goals and challenge themselves to reach goals in the company. So it's a two-way street for sure.
Yeah, I find this statistic, I mean, it's really staggering that not engaged or actively disengaged employees accounted for approximately 1.9 trillion in lost productivity. I mean, so just looking at the financials, and we know how important that is, they're just knowing $1.9 trillion. Can't even imagine what does that even look like? What does that even really mean? 1.9 trillion in lost productivity alone.
Yeah.
Alone.
Yeah. And
Right.
I see in the chat, Hannah has said, I mean, she's got it right. I've seen people willing to take a pay decrease to leave a toxic and disengaged workplace. You got it. I mean, I think we've heard it. There's people that have sometimes described it as like a cancer, right? When you have people who are disengaged and you have like a whole culture that's like that, it's almost like a cancer. You could literally end up taking people who may have been engaged at some point in time and literally have them also saying, you know what, this is not the workplace for me. So, folks just want to jump ship sometimes when they see that the environment is not something that's going to be welcoming for themselves. So that is very interesting. Yes. But let's go to the next slide because I think another piece, again, they all kind of, if you see, are feeding into each other, right? I mean, it's just by numbers, a big important piece, obviously, to, again, surveys that we just talked about in order to get engagement is about data. And how are we driving to use that data? And the trend that we're seeing is that people are starting to make more data-driven decisions. Absolutely. So we're finding more and more that trends seem to be that strategic business decisions are becoming more driven by numbers and, HR teams' ability to be able to pull data in order to drive decisions. So it's beyond just, recruitment. People analytics drive outcomes for businesses. They provide deeper insights into like how employees are going to behave, how they are satisfied, what their level of productivity is going to be. And with the ability to measure and track these metrics in real time, sometimes based on the systems that you might have, we as professionals can create a more agile work environment that can be more effective toward the strategy that we're aiming for. So whether it's, again, beyond recruiting, it could be you want to boost retention. It could be you want to optimize talent or talent development programs. Leveraging the data that you're getting can no longer be an option. People are starting to move toward realizing whatever they can get their hands on to inform a decision is going to be the key to also being more competitive in how much our business environments are evolving. So again, keep in mind too, all of these different metrics that we're reporting on, whether it's comp, whether it's metric trends, or just understanding what's happening out in the market with all these HR metrics that we've been talking about. this is what Catapult does. We have a long history of helping our members with survey data like these and these business trends you're hearing about so that it can help you find direction to improve whatever your strategic decision is going to be.
Next slide, Johnny. And this really goes into our next trend, which we're calling embedded HR, meaning HR really driving the business strategy. So this is a trend we've seen really growing over the last 10 years. And it's so interesting now. There was a study done by LinkedIn, and it found that the chief human resources officer, the CHRO, is the fastest growing role in the C-suite, as it should be, right? HR now is no longer just the administrative support department that it used to be, not just the policy police. You know, we are the strategy drivers, right? We know that people strategy drives the business strategy, and so this is a trend. We think this is where we can all have that impact. HR having not just a seat at the table, but is at the center of the table. And I love the picture at the top of the right of the slide showing HR right at the center, because that's where it should be. We know it takes people to make it all happen. And in order to do that, we're really going to need all of that data. And those of us in HR who have been in HR for a long time, this is where we've got to develop our muscles and deeper business acumen to really gain understanding of not just, the HR stuff that we used to do, but it's really about the strategic goals of the organization and how that ties to the people strategy. And, we know HR can provide all of that great insight and strategy for the business. And, that will help to drive growth, improve efficiency, and shape the future of the company. We know that. And so the key is for HR to have the tools that they need, the analytics that they need to help drive that strategy. So using HR technology, like we talked about today, building dashboards to have the data that you need, and aligning HR to your business goals are all going to be critical as HR continues to, and grows into that center of the table, chief HR role that I think is just going to continue to grow in importance in the years to come. Next slide, please, Joni. And that really ends our presentation today. But what I want to say to you, I want to remind all of you about our upcoming conference in April of 2025, our HR Resilient Conference. We are thrilled. We're going to be diving into it, a lot of the topics we talked about today, plus a lot more. So we're lots of deeper dives into all of these topics. It's going to be, we've got a really great conference planned. It's in April. And if you can go right to our website or click on this QR code to get information about the conference. I know we're taking registrations right now for that. We look forward to seeing many of you in person. That's one of our favorite times of the year, is to see our members in person at our conferences. Early bird pricing is going through the middle of January. So if you're planning it, if you've got it in your budget, now's the time to lock in. And there are table packages available if you want to bring your whole HR team. So definitely look for that information. Next slide. One of the things I forgot to also mention to you at the beginning, I know many of you are wondering, am I going to get a copy of this report that you're talking about? Absolutely, yes. So after sometime later today, you will get an email with this full 2025 Workplace Trends Report, along with the recording of this session today. And I also just want to remind you, Kendra and I and our team, our consulting team, we are here to help you with a lot of these topics that we've talked about today, strategy, projects that you're working on. We are here to help you, whether it's fractional HR support, compensation, talent acquisition. Our recruiting team is helping many of our members fill some really critical positions. So we are here to help you. Just please reach out to us. Next slide has our contact information. So please feel free to reach out to us anytime you have, just want to chat. We love to have the strategy chats with
We
our
have a
members.
lot of conversations just to help you figure things out, to see what you might need help with. And we're completely happy to get on to do that.
Yeah. So please reach out anytime. And with that is the end of our presentation. So we just wanted to open it up, see if there are any questions or any discussions you want to have as we wrap up this session. And we'll just check the chat. We see thank yous. Well, I mostly see thank you. So we say you're welcome. We want to thank you again for joining us. Want to, for this last session of 2024, look forward to some great programs that we have coming up in 2025. So those will be, we'll be putting out those soon. If a
Lori has a
member,
question.
oh, I see Lori has a question. If a member, is there a community to speak with other members? Yes, in fact, there
Yes.
is. We have a few ways to do that. So, of course, we have our member online community, the Hub, which all our members have access to. And with that, you can reach out and ask questions. And so if you have any specific questions about something, Lori, you're thinking about or want to hear what other members are doing about a particular situation or topic, you can pose that question on the Hub. And I know our members are wonderful about jumping in and offering their thoughts and their sample documents and templates and lots of great ideas. Additionally, we have our member roundtables, which are another great way to have our members join a community. And there are different topics that we offer. HR of one, we've got a manufacturing HR roundtable, senior HR, there's learning roundtable, recruiting roundtable, and that's where members can jump on. I think Kira has put something in the chat about our member community. So check that out. If you have any questions, Lori, about that, please give us a call or reach out. We're happy to help you get connected, whether it's on our online hub, member hub, or through one of our roundtables. And it's a great way for members to get to know each other and reach out and build their own community. Do we have any other questions? Well, with that, we want to say thank you so much for joining us today. Wish everybody a wonderful holiday season and a happy new year. And we look forward to seeing you again in 2025. Take care. And everybody, we're going to say bye-bye.